Video, but I think it was a good mistake, because it has shed light upon the ancient landscape around Swindon. It's something I think has been picked up by local historians. The historians and curators and museum people of Swindon are pretty good. They've included, their planning system seems to have included some quite ancient names. Particularly the Welsh river name Dorcan. Which is now a suburb of Swindon. So these guys know what they're talking about. It seems that Google Maps points out the River Ray is somewhere different. Certainly the source tributary of the River Ray is a different source tributary than what's on the National Ordnance Survey map, which is an interesting development, because it means one of the charters I was looking at, which was unsolvable, is now solvable. So Google Maps puts the River Ray coming along the stream that I was showing you on my last video, and that's something I should have spotted. I should have spotted the linguistic sound ray might have come out of Hreod. It should have been no surprise that the D might have disappeared. But what foxed me, I should have heard that sound, which I didn't. The sound of names changes over 1,000 years. But what foxed me was the Ordnance Survey map, which is the official map of Great Britain, and it says the River Ray runs south, north to south, goes past where the stream that I was showing you yesterday joins the River Ray, and then heads south, a bigger stream. So the assumption that the source of the River Ray came from the south is a good assumption, because it's a bigger stream than the stream that I showed you. But Google Maps thinks that the stream I showed you is the River Ray, which goes around that place where I was giving a short piece next to the reeds, and then heads north. So that's given, that correction, spotting that, means that the second Rodborne charter is solvable, which is nice. That I'm going to give it another look now to see if there's anything I can pick out. I sort of abandoned it because I couldn't solve it. It didn't make any sense, that where the Reedbourne was. And now that I know that the Ray later on, that the Reedbourne later, that the wharf, because I pointed out the River Wharf, which is correct, that was the River Wharf at one point. It became later on the Reedbourne, the Ray, and that's nice. I like that idea. I like the fact that we're now going to get more information out of the charters. So I just thought I'd point that out. The River Ray is the Reedbourne, the Hrewd Burnen that I was talking about, except in the Anglo-Saxon period, it went, instead of going south-north, it took a dog leg and went into Swindon. Let's put Swindon in some context. As a place, it only exists as a village for hundreds of years, and then you basically it's the railways that makes it explode. But I noticed I had to cross a canal before getting up this hill. A bit of acrobatics involved in that as well. But anyway, the canals are an older technology, an older form of distribution and communication, and very, very important. And the thing that ties it, it's not just Acts of Parliament that tie it up. This is the canals and the railways were reorganisations of society, led by Parliament. To overrule the right of property, and it was a progressive thing as well. It's not in the sense of like welfare for people, but it did provide jobs, but it boosted the economy. It brought us the Industrial Revolution. And canals, there's another thing that links canals and railways together, and that's the Irish, the Irish navigator. The people that dug the canals and dug the earthworks for railways were mostly Irish, and they put their labour in for the sake of the British state, for the sake of their pay, but ultimately to build the development of Britain. And their labour was colossal. And I just wanted to point out, I can't say much about the canals in this area. I know nothing about it apart from what I've just observed. But the railways themselves were massive. People migrated from all around and they had to be housed, and that created the big town that we see today. And it's not just a town, it's its own county as well. It's like a unitary authority, or whatever they call them these days. District council. So it's not officially in Wiltshire anymore. It's in the ceremonial county of Wiltshire, Wiltonshire in the Anglo-Saxon period. It's now Swindon on its own. It exists as its own independent, its own devolved authority. So Swindon itself it looks like all the things that are around it looks like they fit around Swindon, but Swindon didn't exist. So you have these not a crossroads, a T-junction of Roman roads at Wanborough, which was a farm up until a couple hundred years ago. Now it's part of Swindon. But there's this T-junction of Ermine Street and the road that goes down to Cunetio, Marlborough. And these two roads, one's called, we call it, at some point in the medieval period, people started calling it the Ermine Way, Ermine Street, Ermine Way. And that's what I know it of. I value that name. It's part of my identity to know that's in my landscape. But it's not the real name of it. In the Old English period, it was known as, very boringly, as the Haenstraat, which means the High Street, which is the crappiest name. You know, it's typical Anglo-Saxon attitude, just say what you see, you know. Completely without imagination. Ermine Street's like just really, you know, a romantic notion. So it has that. It's got the Roman thing at Wanborough. Wanborough is interesting as well because one of the few references to the god Woden. Wanborough is Woden's fortification, and that's interesting in itself. It's got its own Saxon boundary, which I'll have to have a look at. I haven't yet. I've just reminded myself of it. But so there is a small town, in a Roman town there, but it's not Swindon. It's only the spread of the suburbs have taken it in. There is also a Neolithic stroke Bronze Age stone circle in the south of Swindon, and on top of the hill overlooking it, which you can see from the M4, everybody can see it driving along. You'll spot it straight away, and that's Liddington Camp. But that's not its real name. Its real name is Badbury, Badder's fortification, and Bardar's fortification. But that's an Anglo-Saxon name for an Iron Age hill fort. There are, I think, 7 stone circles that have been completely obliterated around the Swindon area. And south of Swindon is you will see some beautiful, on the way south towards Avebury, you will see some beautiful Bronze Age barrows, including some ring barrows, disc barrows. But you'll also see to the south Avebury, and in that sacred landscape in the Neolithic and the Bronze Age, and then go further south you've got Stonehenge. So the stone circle in Swindon might be part of some sort of ceremonial landscape that includes Avebury and Stonehenge by extension. So mentally we think of the M4 as being something, a passage of communication that's older than it is. It's only since the 70s that that's been there. There is an underlying network of places, and like I say, this was just a rural villages and nothing particularly special about them at all, but the people who lived here did see it special enough to give interesting names to